Tennessee Valley, welcome to Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. My name is Gary Thurman, and I'm so happy to be with you guys today. Hope you just had a wonderful Labor Day with all your family and friends a few days ago. And I am in here today with my good friend Bobby Futch, Tim McDermott. Gentlemen, Tim, how was your Labor Day weekend?
I can't complain. I got to play a little golf with you.
That's right. We played a little golf.
We
Nice.
celebrated my son's first birthday, so that
Yeah.
was a great time. And my dad and his wife were able to come up, and we had a great time. It was a good weekend.
That's awesome, man. Bobby, what about you? I saw that you and Allison were out on some water. Did I see a post about that?
Yeah, we had some family in town down from Lexington, Kentucky. We went out to the Hiawassee River, so I took my 7-year-old. It was fun.
I saw that picture. Look, as much as I love having Bobby here, he might have missed his calling in life. He looks just natural out there on that water, doesn't he?
Well, you would have been thinking something different if you were on that boat. We got hung up a couple times, and I was out pushing boats, but it was a good time.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Ron and I had a great Labor Day weekend. Like Tim said, we got to play some golf. I got to hang out with Tim's father, which is always a blessing for me, and lots of family, lots of friends, lots of good food. Gentlemen, we had a lot of good food this weekend. So
I made some burgers this weekend. They were, I wish I knew what they were called. I'd tell everybody right now, but they were just the pre-made patties right off the shelf at Publix. I'm not kidding you. Probably one of the best burgers I've ever made. They were awesome.
They were really, really good. Did you do any cooking out there, Bobby?
We didn't. We went out and stayed out, and so we just kind of messed around and picked up food as we went around. There was not a lot of cooking at the house. This week.
I get it, guys. I get it. So today's show is going to be a little bit different. We talk about retirement planning all the time, but we really focus on those folks, let's say between the ages of 60 and 70. You know, you're in that what we call the retirement red zone. Well, we're going to step back a little bit on today's show, really focus on those folks between 45 and 60. So we're going to step it back a couple of generations because, in my personal opinion, this is where I'm at. I'm in this age group, and this is when you start asking those questions. Will I have enough to retire? Am I invested properly? Do I have enough life insurance? God forbid if something happens tragically. What about future taxes? You got to worry about those type of things. And then, you got to worry about health care. It's got to be there. But we're really going to focus in on those 45 to 60-year-olds today and talk about some different things that we can be looking at. Risk, taxes, 401ks, life insurance, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things we love to offer is you could go right now if you wanted to, the GIAquiz.com, GIAquiz.com. It's a really cool test that you can do from the comfort of your home. 35 questions on that quiz, and it's really going to give you some insights if you're actually ready to retire. So again, GIAquiz.com. Tim, I'm going to jump in with you because, we need to talk about folks between 45 and 60 are probably in their peak earning years, so now is a just vital time to be putting money back.
Yeah, this is a time you've climbed the ladder your whole life. You're probably at a position that you want. You may be in management, and you're really making a good income here. And so there's some planning things that need to happen, right? We're potentially anywhere from 10 to 20 years away from retiring. So there's a balancing act that has to go on here, right? Do we want to get more conservative? Do we want to get more aggressive? Do we need to talk about doing some Roth conversions or maybe not, right? And so this is a very specific time frame where you've got to have a conversation with someone to say, is this right for me? Because you are the age group that most people are marketing to, right?
That's true.
Let's just throw it out there, right? And everybody's saying, hey, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do that. And maybe it's smart.
Maybe it's
not, right?
Yeah, I agree. This is the age group where you should really be starting to think about financial planning.
Yep.
If you come in at 60, 65, it's great. You can get started on a plan, but the earlier you get started, the better.
That's right.
And I think, 45, 50 is, to Gary's point, the time you really want to start putting together a plan for you because retirement will be here before you know it.
Yeah, so Bobby, here's a question for you. I'm 50 years old, and I've been putting some money back, but I really just haven't focused a whole lot on it. And all of a sudden, I woke up this morning and I went, you know what? I got to get busy. Mm-hmm. Is it too late for someone that's 50 years old?
No, it's never too late, right? But you need to sit down with a financial planner and figure out what that savings plan looks like. It's probably going to be more aggressive of a savings plan than somebody that started in their 30s or 40s. But it's not too late.
No.
And because you're in your peak earning years, hopefully you have the ability to put back more than somebody who's 20 or 30.
I would tell you it's definitely not too late. 40% of people between the age of 45 and 64 have not even started saving for retirement.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
What about, do you have that breakdown for people in their 20s, Tim?
Yeah, between 18 and 34, 50% of people haven't started yet, right?
Yeah.
Which, I
That's
imagine
kind of common.
Yeah, right. But, to be that far along, 40% haven't even started yet, that's a little rough.
It's a lot. So, Tim, what about, talking to someone about, are you aggressive enough? Are you too aggressive? Is that a big conversation right now in this age group, or do we just expect everybody to be aggressive in the market?
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting, right? Because depending on your situation and where you're at, we had a guy come in the other week, and he was really starting to get really serious about things. He's at the peak of his earning years, and so he's like, okay, I've got some extra income. Kids are now just getting out of the house. I can really get serious about saving for retirement. And for him, he needed to be aggressive, right? We had to grow that bucket as quick as possible, so we had to get more aggressive in his late 40s there. And then as he gets closer to age 60 or 70, we'll tell him to dial back and get a little bit more conservative. But the folks who are in there, maybe you're 50 right now and looking to retire at age 55, right? You didn't wait to start saving. If you're 5 years away from retirement or even 10 years, we need to start scaling back that level of aggressiveness that we're being in the market to some extent, right?
To some extent.
And this is all going to depend on, hey, can we cover the income that you need? Because if your income's covered, maybe you don't need to dial back so much. If your income is lacking and we need to supplement with the assets that you've built, and you take a recessionary hit in the next 2 years, that's going to hurt for retirement.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I just want to remind you guys, GIAquiz.com, GIAquiz.com, a great way to find out if you're truly on the right path to getting ready for retirement. Bobby, something just hit me. This age group, compounding interest.
Yeah, that's one of the most important things in a financial plan is starting early and letting that compound interest work for you. And 45, you'd still maybe have 15, 20 years before you retire. To Tim's point earlier, that's when you want to be aggressive and let that compound interest work for you, because when you get into retirement and you start spending down your assets, most of the assets you're going to spend down isn't the money you saved. It's the money your money has made for you.
That's right. Yeah, I
and
love
so
that.
The more you have time to let that compound interest grow and help, the bigger your bucket and your nest egg down the road.
So, guys, I was putting this show together for us, and, my wife was sitting there next to me. Rhonda's 54, I'm 52. And, she's like, what's the title of your show this week? And I said, I really want to reach out to the people in our age group. And she just dove in. Like, she goes, well, what advice are you giving me? I thought it was pretty funny because, the more and more I thought about it, we pulled up everything. I mean, we were sitting in our kitchen yesterday afternoon. This is what we did. Part of Labor Day is what we did. We sat down and just looked at where do we have all of our stuff at right now. And I was a little shocked. I thought maybe I was a little more aggressive. And I think I have too much money in the safe bucket right now, Bobby. And I'm 52. Am I wrong? Am I right? I mean, I have time on my side to an extent.
Right. And it really just depends on how far out you are from retirement and kind of what your goals are. And so
if that was Tim's idea, Tim would kick me out today. He just started laughing. Yeah, Bobby didn't know what to say.
Yeah. Well, and to Tim's point, though, if you have too much money in the safe bucket at a young age, you may be leaving some lifestyle on the table in retirement, potentially. But see, if you've already have your green bucket covered, we use our bucket system here, our red, yellow, and green bucket system, yellow being bank money, green being the safe money. And Gary's got a pretty full green bucket from what he's saying.
Right.
And red bucket's an important one too, because those are the assets that are going to keep up with inflation, going to keep up with taxes. That's where you get the most growth.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything's wrong with it. You're just, guaranteeing yourself an income later on first, and then we can worry about building that red bucket.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say that. If you feel like you may be too heavily invested in the green bucket now, that's not necessarily a problem, but you may want to start rebalancing those assets. And maybe the rest of your retirement savings is in the red bucket.
And I think a lot of it for me, gentlemen, I'm just being honest here, is that I'm a business owner. So, having more money in that liquid yellow or green bucket sometimes is a little more important to me. I've got to take care of things running the business. And there may be business owners out there in the same situation. But correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, I could take some of that safe money in my high yield marketing savings account or whatever. I can move that into the market.
Yeah,
And it's still
anytime.
liquid.
Anytime, right? That's right. And I know we're getting into this a little bit in the next segment, but
Yeah.
some of the best planning tools out there are in that red bucket and allow us to make the best gains, but get some big tax advantages right now.
And that has to be, I know we're going to talk about it going to the next segment, but Bobby, taxes. You got to be ready.
Oh, absolutely. That's probably going to be your biggest expense in retirement if you don't plan properly is taxes.
I love it. I love it. So listen, guys, when we come back, you just heard, we're going to talk about taxes. We're going to talk future taxes. We're going to talk about a window of opportunity you have right now, a golden window of opportunity to get some taxable money over into a tax-free bucket. Tim and Bobby, you're going into that when we come back on Plan Today on Tomorrow. We'll be right back. In the U.S., it takes an average of 12.5 months for families to legally resolve all financial matters after someone passes away. As a financial advisor, I realize how delicate it can be talking about end of life and financial matters. But that is why I'm here, to help make that hard conversation about taking care of your loved ones easier to have. What if your beneficiaries need some funds sooner than 12 months to cover medical expenses, funeral costs, or monthly bills? That's where Guardian Investment Advisors has you covered. There is a financial solution where we would place a portion of your assets you're already planning on leaving to your loved ones into a guaranteed issue life insurance policy. Within 48 hours, these funds can be provided to your family with confirmation from the funeral home. I'm Gary Thurman, CEO of Guardian Investment Advisors. We are your neighbors right here in the Tennessee Valley. Call us today. Your peace of mind starts with a simple conversation. Welcome back to Plan Today on Tomorrow. We are having an awesome show today because we're really focused on those folks between the ages of 45 and 60. So you're in the retirement red zone. You're 20 yards within that retirement date most likely, but there's a lot of things you need to be doing right now to be ready so that, as we say on the show all the time, we want you to live every day like a Saturday in retirement. And if you're between the ages of 45 and 60, right now is the time. Right now is the time to start planning, start working hard. I just want to remind everybody, GIAquiz.com, GIAquiz.com. It is one easy way to find out if you're truly ready for retirement. Also, you can go to our website, GIAPlanToday.com. We got 4 different calculators there, GIA Plan Today. 4 different calculators, including the GIAquiz.com. So, Bobby, let's jump in. We kind of talked at the end of the first segment how important taxes were for folks between 45 and 60, and we just had the big, beautiful bill passed. And there's some good things out of that, especially for folks 45 to 60 years old.
Yeah, there is. And that was a great one that it extended our current income tax rates out to the beginning of 2029. And in that window to be able to plan for future taxes, especially now that they're cheap. We're in the 3rd lowest income tax bracket we've ever been in this country. And we're going to be there for a handful of more years.
Oh, that's permanent, Bobby.
It's permanent. Yeah, it's
permanent
always
till it's not.
Permanent till it's not, like I always like to say. But one of those things is, so if you, it's taxes are like anything else you got to buy, pay for. If there's something you know you're going to need and it's on sale, it's probably a good idea to go buy it, right? Or go ahead and spend the money to pay your taxes. And so almost everybody that comes into our office, we're talking about Roth conversions with. Yeah, and so in the early 80s, when 401ks were put together, taxes were much, much higher than they are now. And so the 401k was an awesome, probably a no-brainer at that point, because you got to take the immediate income tax deduction when income tax rates were much higher. And then when you got into retirement, it was probably a good idea that your taxes were going to be lower.
Right. Sure.
That's not necessarily the case
That was
anymore.
the train of thought.
That was the train of thought, and it was right then. But now that income taxes are so low, is it as valuable to have that income tax deduction now in a traditional IRA or a 401k when rates are probably going to be going up higher when you're in retirement? It's kind of switched.
Right.
And so that's what makes the Roth IRAs so attractive now.
Forbes magazine did a study, and guys, I just thought about it with something you said, but they did a study, and I don't remember exactly when this was, last year sometime, about how retirees could probably pay more taxes in retirement than they did while they're working.
Sure, I believe
scary.
That. Mm-hmm.
That is a scary number. So, Tim, let's talk about this. I'm, again, let's just use me for an example. I'm 52 years old. God forbid something happens to me tragically. Now Rhonda inherits my IRA, correct? She inherits that money.
Well, yes, but she assumes it as her own IRA.
That's right. But here's my question. Let's say that happened right now at the end of towards the end of 2025. This year, she would still be in the best tax bracket there is, right?
Well, yeah,
Joint.
she can file jointly for.
But what happens to her next year?
Yeah, then she goes to filing single, right?
How important is that, guys?
Which is a rough tax bracket to be in. It's nice going spouse to spouse that you're able to assume it as your own. It is inherited from your spouse,
Right.
But then they get to assume it as their own IRA. So then RMDs become a factor later on down the road, right? Do we have this massive RMD that we have to worry about? And that's where a lot of Bobby and I's planning has come from in the last couple of months. We talk about Roth conversions and taking that taxable money, paying that tax while it's on sale, to Bobby's point, and putting it into a tax-free position later on. You know, this is where it becomes difficult between the age of 45 and 65. You know, you are probably in your peak earning years. So does it make sense for you to do Roth conversions? That's where the math needs to come into play.
Yeah,
And it's all math.
That's right. And,
It's all
and the
math.
answer is different for everybody. So I don't think we can say, you know, if you're 45 to 60, you should be doing Roth conversions. We don't know. It's a good idea to do Roth conversions, but you need to make sure it makes sense for you right now in your circumstance.
So you're saying it might make sense for some people, might not make sense for others?
I completely agree with
Based on what?
that. Based on their earnings,
Okay.
mostly how they file
Could be
their income
earnings,
taxes.
how much they have in traditional, IRA, 401k funds. It could depend on what their income's going to be in a few years, right? We've met with several people here recently where, they're planning on retiring 2 or 3 years, and their income's going to drop in half, right? Because their earned income's just going to go away entirely. They kick on Social Security. Then is the time for them to start doing some Roth
And
conversions.
We've been
right?
seeing a lot more people too that want to go semi-retired.
That's
right. That's right.
Part-time jobs. We're not going to fully retire and hang it up. I'm going to do something else. Maybe not earn as much. So it's a complicated answer,
That's right.
and it needs to be had though. You need to have that
Yeah.
conversation with your planner. We have it every day.
That's why we use the software that we do, though, right? It kind
Let's
of
talk about that, Tim.
we're able to plug kind of your whole picture into one nice picture and then say what if, right? And the what if kind of tells us, is it smart to do it this way, or this way? And then we can show you what that looks like at the end of the day.
So Bobby, someone comes in here with an old 401k. They're 50 years old and they've got 400,000 in it. Are we just going to convert the whole 400,000?
Probably not, because you can piecemeal these conversions, right? You don't have to do all $400,000 at once. Oftentimes that doesn't make sense because that's $400,000 of what's called earned income to the IRS.
Exactly.
So what we need to do is make sure that we're taking bites and pieces out of it every year that makes sense. Usually what happens is we'll look at it and try to convert as much as we can to leave you in the same income tax bracket you are.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. So if you're in the 24% bracket and the top of that bracket's another $40,000, we'll have a conversation towards the end of the year, kind of figure out what your income is going to
Convert
look like,
40K.
and we'll convert $40,000. Sometimes it makes sense to go to the next bracket.
That's right.
Though. So
Yeah,
this is a
it
really
does.
tough thing just to have some kind of blanket statement about Roth conversions.
The nice thing about planning early, ages 45 to 60 that we're talking about right now, is we don't have to be concerned about Medicare IRMA brackets.
That's right.
Right
Yeah.
now,
Good
right?
call.
Where
Yeah.
If you're 63 or older, you have to be concerned about paying extra for that Medicare because you earn X, Y, and Z amount of money. It's not a problem for us as long as we're under the age of 63, right?
And what a lot of people don't realize is when you get to that 65 and you have those IRMA charges, it's a 2-year look back.
Right.
Right. So what you mentioned 63.
Right.
Well, we don't start Medicare until we're 65.
Correct.
But when you're 65, 2 years ago was 63. So you need to make sure you're paying attention to that too, because it can
Good call.
affect you later on down the road.
I like that. You want to see how taxes are going to impact you if they go up in the future? PlanTodayTaxBill.com. PlanTodayTaxBill.com. Go check it out. Gentlemen, we got about 3.5 minutes in this segment. I want to talk about old 401ks. Tim, I know this is something you and I mean, every time somebody walks into this office, if they have an old or a dormant 401k, I mean, the first thing we do is talk about how important it is to take control of that money. Why is that?
Yeah, there's multiple reasons, right? You're limited on the investment options inside of that plan. It's restricted. It's an employer-sponsored plan, meaning that at any time they could say, okay, we're done with this company. We want to move our 401k plan over to X, Y, and Z. That can start a blackout period, right, during that time frame. And there could be some high risks there that you're trying to avoid. At the end of the day, it's hard to make decisions quickly inside of a 401k plan.
Right.
So
That's
if you want to get away from risk all of a sudden in your 401k plan, it'll probably take 2 days for them to sell, trade,
Right.
move, and you probably can't even hold cash in there, right? You have to go into a bond fund of some sort, right?
Yeah.
And so moving it out into a self-directed IRA allows you to take control of that and use it more purposefully for what you're trying to do.
Bobby, let me cut you off. Walk us through that. I walk in here with an old 401k. Walk us through that process of how we take control of that money.
Yeah, it's a really simple process. So we use a custodian. Our custodian is Charles Schwab, and most everybody offers an IRA rollover. So you'd want to open an IRA rollover if you don't already have one. Pretty simple process. And then you just make a phone call to the 401k company. Say, listen, I want to roll over in what they call a trustee to trustee transfer.
Right.
And that's important because as long as it goes from a 401k directly to an IRA, there's no taxes involved in that. What you don't want to do, Gary, is call your old 401k provider and say, send Gary Thurman
Send me a check. Yeah.
Right? Because if it comes into your name, you just have a taxable event.
Big one.
So a big one. It's all going to be taxable to you. And so by doing that trustee to trustee transfer, it goes from the 401k provider to Charles Schwab directly. And in a couple weeks, 401k providers are all a little different in how they do it. Some want paperwork, some will do it over the telephone. But it shows up at Charles Schwab, and you're free to invest it however you like.
Tim, how big is that? If somebody has an old 401k, bring it over to us in an IRA, that's a chunk of money that we could really have a conversation about Roth conversions with.
Yeah, and that's most of the time what we do, right? At that point, it's, hey, let's get this in here. Let's do some Roth conversions if we can, if it makes sense. I've had a lot of folks come in and say, I can't do them yet. My 401k doesn't allow it. And I say, well, that's another good reason,
That's
right?
right.
To get it out into a self-directed IRA. One of the biggest issues with 401k plans is they're so different every time you go into a new plan. They're structured just slightly differently. Do they have Roth contributions? Do they allow for Roth conversions? Are two of the big ones that I would be asking your HR about.
I think it's fascinating that people have old 401ks out there. I know we've had people come in with 2, 3, 4, 5 of them.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, take control of that money. So if you're someone out there between the ages of 45 and 60 or younger or older, if you have a 401k out there that you no longer work for with that employer, an old 401k, if you want to call it, give us a call, 423-710-9199. Come in and see Tim and Bobby about getting that 401k over to an IRA and take control of that money. Hey guys, when we come back, we're going to talk about a couple things: life insurance, long-term care insurance, and then later in the show, we're going to talk about the great wealth transfer. We'll be right back.
You might not be able to retire if you haven't thought about future inflation and future taxes. When you're going through your retirement plan, are you thinking about inflation? Does your current plan have inflation built into it? The national average is about 3%. Of course, it's been really, really high the last few years, but it has come back down. But you've got to build inflation into your retirement plan because we don't want to run out of money. Another thing I stress to my clients all the time is we got to think about future taxes. Our government has one source of income, and that is taxes. And I promise you, with $34 trillion in debt, 2 more trillion being added this year in 2024, the interest only on our national debt is $1 trillion. Folks, taxes are going to go up. You've got a window of opportunity in 2024 and 2025 while taxes are still on sale. Let's start looking at maybe taking some of your taxable money to tax-free money. This is all part of the Wealth Guard planning process. We'll do this for you when we're creating an income plan. You got to think about inflation and you got to think about taxes. Give us a call today and come in and see myself and my team, and let's put this plan together for you.
Welcome back to Plan the Day on Tomorrow. The name of our company is Guardian Investment Advisors. I'm Gary Thurman, your host, joined today by Tim McDermott and Bobby Futch with Guardian Investment Advisors. A couple things I want to remind you guys of. There's a couple quizzes we've talked about on today's show. GIAquiz.com. It's a great way to find out if you're truly ready for retirement. The other one we talked about is PlanTodayTaxBill.com. PlanTodayTaxBill.com. Get out there, answer some questions, and let's find out if Roth conversions should be in your future. So our show today has been focused on 45 to 60 years olds. We talked about peak earning years. We talked about your risk bucket and how we use different strategies to help you with risk. We got it into deep conversation about tax planning, and then we just did a short segment on if you have an old 401k, let's take control of that money, get it moved over to an IRA. I like this next segment, Tim, and I'm gonna start with you because I think people simply ignore how awesome life insurance is, especially if you're in your peak earning years. How important is life insurance?
Well, it's a little depressing to think about, but
It
it's
is.
very important to have, right? There's multiple types of life insurance that you could have. Myself and I think Bobby Fudge over there and even Gary Thurman all have some sort of term life insurance in place for ourselves. This is the cheapest way to get it, right? When you're in your working career, when you're building your assets, you've got a little debt like a mortgage, and maybe some young kids at home. This is you got to have it, right? If something happens to me tomorrow, my family needs to have some cash to make it through.
Yep. That's the big thing about term life insurance is there's really only one benefit to term life insurance, and it's the death benefit.
Yeah.
So as of recently, and my policy does do this, but there is an additional benefit to some term life policies that's pretty cool, and I would suggest looking into. It's called living benefits.
Right.
Right. It's really hard to be in a place where something happens to you, but you don't pass away, but you can't work, and now your family's left with all the bills and
Right.
no life insurance money. And so these living benefits will start paying out ahead of time to help take care of those costs, even if you haven't quite passed away, right?
Yeah,
So
because
they accelerate the death benefit.
That's right.
That's right. That's huge, because that kind of fills the gap of like traditional disability insurance. But it can be a meaningful amount, especially if you have a huge or large term policy.
That's right.
So let's talk about the super wealthy, Bobby, and how they take advantage of life insurance, because there's some really cool cash value life insurance policies out there. You can, if you pass away, there's a death benefit, tax-free to your family. But you're also building up cash that you can pull out down the road in a loan that'd be tax-free.
That's right. And this is not term insurance. So what we just talked about really is only the death benefit. But there are permanent life insurance policies where as long as you keep paying that premium, the benefit will stay in place. Well, as you pay those premiums, a portion of that goes into a bucket called the cash value, and it'll grow value over time. And some of them can be quite aggressive later on. When you first start these kind of
You got all those
policies,
fees and all that other
it's
stuff
a
you got to pay.
slow roll. But if you stick to the plan, you can build a really sizable cash value that, to your point, Gary, can provide tax-free income in the future via loans to yourself, which is really cool. And so we look at these often. If you're a high-income earner and you've maxed out your IRAs, your 401ks,
Right.
You've done all of the other pre-tax savings tools and you've used them all, and you still want to save some more, a permanent insurance policy with cash value can
Yeah.
be a really powerful tool.
I love it.
Because those are loans that are coming out later on in life. You don't pay taxes on debt, right? And so it ends up becoming a tax-free source of income for yourself down the road. And the nicest thing about these policies and why they're so beneficial is that you're borrowing from your future death benefit, not necessarily your cash value. So your cash value continues to grow for you like you didn't pull money out. That's a big differentiator and one of the only programs out there that I know that does this.
Tim, didn't we have somebody in the office recently that had an older cash value life insurance plan, and you guys were able to move it to a better
Yeah.
cash value life insurance plan and help him out tremendously?
Yeah, they were in a variable universal life policy, which is interesting. I don't see a whole lot of those anymore. And it did fairly well during the last 20 years that they had it. So they built up a nice cash value. They were looking to retire before age 59 and a half, and so they needed access to funds that were not IRA monies.
Right.
And specifically for them, most of it was tied up into IRAs or Roth IRAs. Pretty typical. It's what we see most of the time. But this cash value life insurance policy, we were allowed to roll it into a new plan that maximized the income for it,
Right.
and then provided an income for them before age 60. And it was a tax-free income at the same time. So it was a really beneficial setup for them.
I do, though, think a lot of folks out there missell these products, Bobby.
Without a doubt.
It's
Without
bad.
a doubt. We see that often. back in the day, insurance companies used to be able to illustrate these policies with rates that probably were not realistic.
14, 15.
14, 15%. Come on.
And so the problem
Yeah.
that you run into is if it has not performed like those illustrations suggest that it might, you're going to be stuck putting more money into these things just to keep them in force.
Right.
And then the benefit's not going to be as big as you thought it would be to be able to take those loans. So if you have one of these older policies, let us take a look at them, because it wasn't uncommon for them to be missold, the returns overrepresented, and it's just not performing like you expect it to perform.
So I think as we wrap up the conversation about life insurance, we think having at least a term life insurance policies for your family is vital. And it's so easy to get term life insurance now, and it's very inexpensive. If you're looking at some cash value life insurance policies or permanent life insurance policies, we can educate you guys on those as well. So come in and see us, 423-710-9199. Give us a call. Come in and see Tim and Bobby as soon as you can. And don't forget, GIAquiz.com, GIAquiz.com. Bobby, let's jump into long-term care. Now, 45-year-olds really probably are not thinking about long-term care.
No.
50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, I'll be honest with you, I grew up doing that business was a big part of my life, selling long-term care insurance. So it is important for me and Rhonda. 70% of us are going to need some type of long-term care now. But man, if you can start planning between ages 45 and 60, you're going to be so far ahead of the game, it's unreal.
And your options are going to be a lot more than somebody
That's
that
right.
waits until retirement or post-retirement to do that. You're right, Gary. That's an incredible number. 70+% of us are going to need some type of long-term care. We're living longer. Medicine's gotten a lot better, so we're able to live longer sick, if you will.
It's a good way to look at it.
And so you need to really plan for that bucket of money, because it's an expensive thing to have to pay for. And so traditional long-term care insurance may be worth looking at for somebody who's 45, 50, but it's getting really expensive. It's getting harder to find, and there are better ways now, more flexible ways
Yeah.
to provide for those needs.
I don't like between ages 45 and 50, Tim. I'd almost rather see them buy one of these IULs with living benefits versus long-term care insurance. That's me personally.
Probably much agreed, right? We do the life insurance you do have to qualify for, so
That's
we need
true.
to make sure you're healthy. But that's same thing's
Same with
true for
long-term care.
long-term care insurance, right? So we need to make sure you're healthy and beneficial. But at the end of the day, what we're really going to talk about is trying to self-fund or leverage some assets to take care of that long-term care down the road.
So, Bobby, going back to me, I'm 52 years old. I come to you. I've got that old 401k. It's got $400,000 in it. Just throwing that out there. And I am extremely worried about long-term care because I'm already sick. I've got some things that are not going to allow me to do some of these other neat asset planning tools that we have, right? I've got a major heart condition, and maybe I got this and that, whatever the case may be. I can't qualify. But if I've got $400,000 and my worry is getting sick in the future and putting that burden on my family, what are we going to do?
Yeah, you're in a tough spot, Gary. But so I think the solution for you would be a properly structured fixed indexed annuity.
Yeah.
There's no medical underwriting for a fixed indexed annuity, and a lot of these benefits now, the guaranteed income can be doubled if you should need long-term care, which
Yeah.
is really cool. So that lasts generally up to 5 years. So if you're $400,000, and you're still young, you still have a lot of time for this contract to grow until you retire. You could have a really sizable benefit, guaranteed monthly or annual income. And oh, by the way, if you get sick, it doubles that income.
That's crazy.
That's a great way to plan for long-term care and not be subject to that underwriting.
And then, Tim, again, we have another tool out there right now it's a fixed index annuity as well. But, this particular company, if you get sick and fail 2 ADLs, they'll just send you all your money back.
Yeah,
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, one of the trade-offs that you take going into a fixed index annuity is that you go into what's called a surrender period, right?
That's correct.
Meaning that you're signing a contract with this company, and we need to make sure that our funds are able to stay inside this contract for roughly 10 years most of the time. Well, this company says if you get sick and you're not able to perform these ADLs or you need some assistance, we're going to waive that surrender penalty and send you all your money back, including the bonus that they gave you up front and all returns in between now and then.
It's just incredible.
And that's usually the only reason that you would see someone need to reach in and
That's
pull all their
correct.
funds out, right?
That's
so
correct.
It's nice that they're thinking of that and making sure you're taken care of at the end of the day.
I just love that we have a lot of options now, for life insurance, a lot of options for future long-term care costs. We can help you with all of those things, folks. GIAquiz.com, GIAquiz.com. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Great Wealth Transfer. It's going to be interesting. Stay tuned. Too many people enter retirement without a plan or a tax strategy, and it costs them. Every dollar you save from taxes is a dollar that can be put to work to help secure your retirement. At Guardian Investment Advisors, we have the experience and the expertise to create a customized financial strategy that includes smart tax planning. It's not about quick fixes or magic formulas. It's about building a comprehensive, tax-efficient plan. We're offering a no-cost portfolio and tax strategy review to get you started. Schedule an appointment with us today. You'll be glad you did. Welcome back to Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. My name's Gary Thurman with Guardian Investment Advisors. I'm here today with my good friends Tim McDermott, Bobby Futch, fiduciary advisors here at Guardian Investment Advisors. Guys, I've enjoyed today's show because we've talked about some things we normally don't talk about. We really focused on folks between 45 and 60. So if you didn't catch the whole show, go to our website, giaplantoday.com. The show will be listed there as a podcast. But if you have any questions moving forward, 423-710-9199. And don't forget, go to giaquiz.com, giaquiz.com. It's a great way to find out if you are truly on the right step to retirement. Gentlemen, something's coming up here called the Great Wealth Transfer, and it refers to a massive handoff of assets from baby boomer generation, folks born 46 to 64, to their heirs, primarily Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. It's going to be considered one of the largest financial shifts in history, Bobby. So let's talk about that. 45 to 60-year-olds might be inheriting some money, we could say?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
The numbers that I've seen recently are about $84 trillion.
84 to 90 trillion is what I've got.
Over the next about 20 years is going
Right.
to be handed down. That provides an opportunity for a lot of planning. And people should be doing that because I think as planners, we can say there are good ways to pass down wealth and there are better ways to pass down wealth, right? And taxes are going to be a big part of that because if you don't pass on those assets in an efficient way, even outside of estate taxes, which most people don't have to worry about anymore, the exemption is so high, it can cause an issue with income taxes when you inherit those assets.
That's right.
And then how do you maybe you didn't have a whole lot of money. Now all of a sudden you do, right? That provides another host of issues on how to plan for that, how to take care of it. So there's going to be a lot going on here over the next 20 years. It's going to be an exciting time to be a financial planner.
So, Bobby, if you're one of those baby boomers that we just talked about, I know we've been focusing on younger folks today, but if you are one of these baby boomers and you're going to be transferring a lot of this wealth, how important is it to have your will and trust and beneficiaries and taxes and legacies planning all set up properly?
Oh, it's absolutely vital. I mean, that's the way that you can botch this the easiest is not having a will and an estate plan. And an estate plan doesn't have to be a complicated thing, right? Just make sure you have at least a will. Even if you're just going to divide it up between your wife and your kids or whatever that works, make sure you have that document in place because it makes it complicated and it can erode wealth over time. If your assets have to sit in probate or administration because you didn't have a properly established estate plan,
Right.
man, it can be devastating. Make sure you have those things done because that's the way you can provide the most benefit to your beneficiaries.
And really, Tim, it's going to help avoid a mess. I mean, let's just call it. I mean, and I read another report from Wall Street Journal a few weeks back talking about how a lot of the females were going to be receiving a lot of this money. So that's a big difference too, because most likely they're going to outlive their husbands. But they also may have been pulled out of work to take care of mom and dad. I mean, there's all kinds of different things. But what we're trying to do here is tell people to get all their ducks in a row, so to speak, so we don't create a mess for whomever you're leaving this money to.
Yeah, and look, you don't need to be retired. In fact, I would argue that you should have an estate plan put together long before retirement age. If you have kids, if you're taking care of minors, start putting that estate plan together. You want to make sure that's together earlier rather than later. But moving into that retirement age and this great wealth transfer that we're seeing, there are very efficient ways to to pass on these assets. We talked about Roth conversions earlier. That Roth conversion not only helps you through your lifetime and how much you save on taxes, but how much your kids will save on taxes as well. If you're going into a brokerage account with some assets that you have, maybe a buy and hold strategy is the play if you're looking to let your kids inherit that account because they get a step up in cost basis when you pass away, right? There are effective ways to transfer these assets down as long as we do it in the proper way.
Yeah.
One of the things I've heard probably 6 times this year is, hey, we went ahead and put our son and our daughter on our accounts so that they could help us take care of these things while we're getting sick
or on the house.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And so and this could be a really big mistake that you're making that you don't know you're making. Your intentions are good, but it's causing taxable issues and liability issues for you and your children.
Yeah,
Bobby?
that's a great point. And so you can avoid probate by putting beneficiaries on accounts, even if it's a taxable account.
That's right.
But that's different than making them a joint owner.
That's right.
Right. So you can go down to the bank and ask them to put a TOD, a transfer on death, or a POD, payable on death. It's the same thing. They just call it something different.
Right.
On an account. They don't own it now. You're not giving them access to it, but it avoids probate. And so that's really a great way of doing something. Most assets can have a beneficiary designation on them. And so if you're simply wanting to leave it to a spouse or children, that's a great way to do it.
I love it. So, guys, let's just have a little fun recap here of today's show that I'm going to ask you guys a couple of different questions. So let's recap the 45 to 60-year-olds. Bobby, I'm going to start with you. Just with risk itself for someone 45 to 60, what should they be thinking about?
Yeah, you need to make sure, look and see how far away from retirement you are. That'll probably be the main driver for the amount of risk you need to take. And then how are you doing on that path to retirement? Are you kind of falling behind? Are you ahead of where you want to be? That can all affect the amount of risk you take, but you really need to have that conversation because that's the number one thing that can derail a retirement plan is taking on too much risk and then having a downturn in the market.
Got it. Great answer there. Tim, I'll go with you. What should they be thinking about when it comes to taxes?
Paying less.
Yeah, but that's a
Paying
good
less
one.
would be a good one. There's 100 ways to get there. Let's start some of that tax plan. We'll work with your CPA to make sure that it makes sense for you along the way.
I love that. Bobby, old 401ks, what should they do?
You should take control of them. Don't let those old 401ks sit out there and linger. No one's watching them. You're forgetting about them. You don't know how they're invested. Take control of them. Move them into an IRA rollover and get them back to work for you.
I love that. And Tim, what about life insurance?
Have some if you need it. And let's use it for more than one thing. And life insurance can be used for the living.
That's right, for multiple reasons. I love that. So, Bobby, here's something. I'm going to give Tim. You're going to get a 60-year-old. You're going to get a 50-year-old.
All right.
Ready? Bobby, what's one piece of advice you'd give a 50-year-old right now?
Sit down and take stock of where you're at. Because you're probably right now in your peak earning years. You're probably focused on your family. You're probably focused on making money at work. But listen, retirement's right around the corner for you.
Yep.
You'll be 60, 65 before you know it. Take stock of where you're at right now and see where the shortfalls are.
That's great. So start planning now.
Yes.
Start planning now. Tim, same question for you. What's one piece of advice you'd give a 60-year-old right now?
In similar fashion, I would say make sure you write down what you're spending and put together an income plan for when you retire.
Love that.
That's going to be a crucial part of the retirement planning process is making sure that income is taken care of for your concerned.
And I think at age 60, if I can add something there,
Sure.
I think risk becomes more important there at about 60.
Absolutely.
Make sure you understand how much risk is in your portfolio.
Very
'cause
much.
You don't have a lot of time.
So we don't have a lot of time left in the show, guys, but let's talk about this. What about some younger folks between 20 and 30? One piece of advice, Tim?
Get your match in your 401k. Don't wait. I promise you, once you do it, you won't miss it out of your paycheck. It's worthwhile having. And maybe make sure you have some life insurance to cover some liabilities.
Yeah,
that
especially if you
have.
have children,
Yeah.
children and stuff.
And
right?
I don't
Yeah.
care if it's $20 or $200 a week or a month. Just start doing something now.
Agreed.
You have 40 plus years to let that compound interest work for you.
I use a phrase called pay yourself first. Start paying yourself first. It's easy for me because I have a 29 and 28-year-old. So these are conversations we have all the time with those guys. So, guys, I've enjoyed today's show because we really focused on 45 to 60-year-olds. We did talk about baby boomers a little bit there. But we really kind of talked about what your risk levels are. What should you start doing to plan for future taxes? Do you need life insurance? Do you not need life insurance? How much risk are you taking on in your portfolio? All kinds of different things that we talked about today. If you have any questions for us at all, 423-710-9199. Again, 423-710-9199. Now, I'm going to give out a quizzes a few more times. GIAquiz.com. GIAquiz.com. This is a way to go take 35 question test, if you call it that, from the comfort of your home. It will really give you some insights on if you're truly ready to retire. And then like Tim and Bobby said earlier, one of the biggest conversations we're having with folks right now is Roth conversions. If you want to check out what your taxes might look like in the future after this window of opportunity we have right now is not there anymore, plantodaytaxbill.com. Plantodaytaxbill.com. Bobby, any final words?
No, sir. Great show. I appreciate it.
That was a lot of fun. Tim, any final words?
Have a great week. Enjoy your day.
Have a great week.
I thought I had something more there.
Have a great week. Guys, again, GIAPlantoday.com. If you go to our website, GIAPlantoday.com, all 4 of our quizzes are in the top right-hand corner. You can watch our TV show there. You can listen to our radio show there. You can see our upcoming events, which we have a ton of them coming up over the next few months, the last quarter of the year, and we'd love to have you at one of our events. Phone number one more time, 423-710-9199. I hope you guys enjoyed Plan Today on tomorrow. We'll see you guys next week. God bless.